In the ongoing evolution of our means of transport, there have been classics, and there have been classics. But it's possible no classic surpasses the impact and the timelessness of the little yellow airplane known as the Piper Cub. There was a time when Cubs were being built at a rate of 1 every 20 minutes. By the end of World War II, 80% of America's military pilots had received their primary training in Cubs. A legacy takes shape over time. Cubs have been the incubators of combat aces, world record holders, and skywalkers. They are revered treasures in hangars all over the world. 75 years after the first Cub flew, it remains the universal symbol of the freedom we associate with personal flight. To small airplanes, Piper Cub is like Kleenex or Xerox, a proper name that so defines its genre, it becomes universal. We may speak of the wonder of flight, the power of flight, the convenience of flight, or the speed of flight. But when pilots speak about the freedom of flight, somewhere in the logbooks of their minds, they're remembering a bluebird day over some pristine place in a Piper Cub. A day when the wind was not a factor, but a brother. A day when all that mattered was the fuel in the tank, the engine's untroubled purr, and a vista broken only by the curvature of the earth. Perhaps the best analogy there is for the hold that the classic Piper Cub has on aviators is that of a first love. Pilots go on to other airplanes for any number of reasons, but they never completely get over their encounter with the Cub. John Baugh is a member of the Tennessee Aviation Hall of Fame. He's a high-time, highly rated pilot who flies everything from warbirds to helicopters. But nothing seems to compare to his time in the Cub.
Well, it's insulting to go down the interstate, over the interstate, and everybody else is faster than you are. So, but it's not made for that. It's just made. It's the most carefree thing that I own. I don't have a lot of responsibility other than make sure I got oil pressure and got fuel. And all other instruments don't mean anything. In fact, you haven't got any other instruments. So you get to go fly around, and it's the most relaxed thing I can do, like people who fly balloons. It's really wonderful. Obviously, there are two ways to take off in the Cub. You can kind of hold your brakes a little bit, bring the throttle up and get it light on the tail and release your brakes, and then get your tail up, and then you're looking straight down the runway, and then when you reach flight speed, it's going to come off anyway. If you'll just give a slight back pressure, it lifts off. I have a habit of going down the river and following all the curves, and Tennessee's blessed with a lot of good rivers, and there's hardly anyone ever on the river, so I don't worry about fishermen. If I see a fisherman, I'll pull up and away from him, but I get pretty much on the water, and I'll follow it for 10, 15, 20 miles. And that's a good coordination maneuvers. In the old days, we used to follow railroad tracks, and railroad tracks will get you really coordinated. But nowadays, and particularly since 911, when you get down treetops or get around houses or get down low, somebody starts hollering. But they don't bother me over on the water. I've come in the Mustang or on a long trip, business trip, and crawl out of 1,500 horsepower airplane, V12, and crawl in this lane at 75, 80 mile an hour, and go out, and it's about the best unwinding you can do, because there's nothing to do. I mean, you fly, and you'll hear people make reference to the old DC-3 and all, it lands and flies like a Cub. Well, there's nothing flies any better than a Cub.
Bruce Bohannon of Angleton, Texas, is one of the premier pilots in America today. Formerly a legendary Formula One air racer, in recent years he's established 13 absolute world records in the unlimited class for fastest times to predetermined altitudes, or time to climbs. But this pilot who's built a career on going fast says he will always have a Cub in his hangar. He's taught his sons to fly in this 1946 J3 model. It's still his sanctuary on lazy Texas afternoons. But if you're a world record holder, you're driven to do something that's never been done before, even if it's in a Piper Cub. Like maybe flying your Cub in formation with a 1/3 scale radio-controlled Cub, with the RC pilot flying in your back seat. It might work. For 75 years, Piper Cubs have been our teachers and our talismans, our comrades and our confidants. We don't strap into Cubs so much as we strap them on. With them, we share a sky and a soul. On yellow wings ride the memories of 1,000 carefree afternoons and the hope of tomorrow's respite from a world that talks too much.